Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Mary Frida Keira of Right Life Kenya Words That Build. Now last week we delved a bit into what boundaries are and why it is important for you to set boundaries for your life. Now we discussed why boundaries are important, and one of the major things that we said is that boundaries are good. They help you to maintain your personal well-being. They help you to maintain healthy relationships, and they also help you to manage your time and resources in a way that is optimal. So boundaries we have asserted are good. So let's get into how to set effective boundaries for your life. The first step in doing this is self-reflection. This is just sitting in your own space and trying to figure out, what is it that I need? What is it that I value? And what are my limits? This is figuring out what is important to me in the different areas of my life. It is also figuring out what is it that I cannot tolerate from people or from my own self, or in terms of behavior or happenings in my life. What is it that I cannot tolerate? Now, this is a good place to start because it is in understanding yourself that you're able to also guide those around you and tell them, this is what I'm comfortable with, this is what I like, this is what I need, and telling them that so that they can also relate with you in a way that makes you comfortable, in a way that makes you operate in a space of self-awareness and considering whatever it is that you need as a person and whatever it is that you like. The next step is getting specific in each area of your life. Now, this is where you segment your life into its many parts and set boundaries for yourself in each space. If it is at work, what are your boundaries? What are your non-negotiables? What are the things that guide how you operate productively in your workplace without infringing on your right to be a person, a wholesome person in your work and outside of work? If it is in your friendships, what is it that guides your friendships? What are your boundaries around your friendships? If it is in your marriage or your dating relationship or your courtship, what is it that guides that? Do you have a guideline that you follow in terms of how you relate to your better half, or how you relate to someone you're dating or someone you're courting? What are your boundaries in that space? If it is raising your children, what are your boundaries in that space? What are the boundaries that you have set in your home in terms of relating with your helper, or how they relate even with other people in your household or the property that you have? What are your boundaries in that space? What are your boundaries concerning social media? What are your boundaries concerning gadgets like your phone or your laptop and all that? So these are things that you need to think about so that you're not just operating from a point of guesswork, and so that people know this is the boundary here. There are families that choose to have their gadgets placed in one place as they do dinner so that they are able to talk to each other. That's a boundary. Figure out if that's what you need. There are people that have set boundaries that they do not go with their gadgets to their bedrooms. That's a boundary to help them to probably get time to talk to each other, or to get time to get quality sleep, because it has been shown that using your phone before you sleep can affect the quality of your sleep. So that is an example of a boundary that you can set for yourself. So figure out in the specific areas of your life, what are the boundaries that guide you. The third step is communicate your boundaries clearly. Now, communication is very key because these are boundaries that will not only guide how you live your life, but how you interact with people in the different area of your life. It will guide your relationship with your family. It will guide your relationship with your friends, with those you work with strangers you meet, and such things. So it is very, very key then that we learn to communicate our boundaries very clearly. This step really requires you to be very assertive and very, very confident. For those who are not used to being assertive and confident, setting boundaries and communicating them might be a bit challenging. You will feel a lot of guilt when you try to enforce a boundary. You will feel very uncomfortable. You will start doubting whether the boundary was necessary in the first place. And so I want to encourage you to push past that feeling, because we have already asserted that boundaries are really good for you in every area of your life, because they guide people on how to treat you in a way that is respectful, in a way that you're comfortable with. In the next few weeks, I will be sharing some of the biblical lessons from the Word of God that teach us how to set good boundaries for our lives, and you will be able to discern that boundaries are actually biblical, and that even Jesus set some boundaries for his own life and how he lived his life on others as a man. So boundaries are very, very key, and we need to communicate it to people clearly in a way that is respectful. And you will find that your boundary really hurts no one. It just shows people this is how she prefers to be treated, this is how he prefers to be treated, this is what they value, this is what their limits are. So anyone who really cares about you will try to treat you in the way that you guide them to. They also make our relationships easier, because people know what you need, what you value, and then they are able to give that to you in the way that you need. So in communicating a boundary, you use the word I, and you are very clear, very concise about what you need. And why this is very important and very key is because you don't want to leave room for mixed messages. You don't want to sound ambiguous, as if you're not sure what you're communicating. You also want to be very confident, because if you're not, then the recipient of the message will think that you're not even sure about this boundary that you're communicating. So you communicate something, for example, to your spouse like, I need you to call me whenever you know that you're going to be late, coming home in the evening from work. You're communicating to your better half that that is a need that you have. Whenever they see as though they will be late, that you will feel more comfortable if they call you and tell you that. But you can tell your colleague that I value working in silence. So then they know that if they have some juicy details about one thing or another, then they can tell you that on your ride home from work, or while you're having lunch, or such and such a thing, but that you hold your workspace sacred for doing that which you're employed to do. Or it could be telling your friend that I'm not comfortable with my children's pictures being posted online. You're just letting them know that if you have events in common and they take good pictures with your children, you will not be very pleased to find them on social media. You see, they might be comfortable doing that for their families, but so long as you communicate this is your boundary, then they can respect that, and you will have led them to knowing what it is that you need, instead of just letting it slide and then arguing about it later because they offended you, that they posted pictures while they never even knew that that's a boundary to you. So long as you communicate your boundary clearly and respectfully, then boundaries really harm no one. They just guide people to be better friends, to be better family members, better colleagues to each other. So learn to communicate your boundaries clearly. The next step is be firm and be consistent. No one will take your boundaries seriously if you're not firm or consistent with them. If you tell someone that I cannot tolerate this and this, and then you go ahead and tolerate it, then you will seem as if you're not even serious about that boundary yourself. So it is very key to be very firm and very consistent with the boundaries you set. Remember, you're setting this boundary for your well-being. You're setting this boundary for a healthy relationship. You're setting this boundary because you value your time and your energy, you value your resources. So why set it in the first place if you're not going to enforce it? As I said, it will require confidence to enforce it. It will require you pushing past guilt and pushing past the uncomfortable feeling of asserting yourself, especially if you've not grown up in an environment where people were encouraged to assert themselves, or if you suffer from low self-esteem, you might find this very, very uncomfortable. But for you to have personal growth, then you have to enforce your boundaries. You have to be firm and consistent about it so that people can know this is who she is. She's not pretending. This is what she prefers. This is what she says, and this is what she means when she says this. So when you're consistent with it, then people are able to know this is who you are as a person. And you might even find people discussing, even when you're not there, that this one prefers things done in a certain way. It doesn't mean you're inflexible. It just means that you know yourself, you know your limits, and you're setting them in the light for everyone to know so that they're able to give you whatever it is that you need in whichever space that you're in. So be firm and consistent when enforcing your boundaries. The next step is evaluate as needed. Now, different times in our lives will require us to evaluate our boundaries and adjust them as necessary. Seasons in life change, circumstances in life change, and sometimes you need to keep adjusting your boundaries so that you're able to be the most productive or the most happy in the different seasons that you're in. For instance, the boundaries you place on yourself as a single person might not be the boundaries that you place on yourself as a married person in terms of relating with the person you're with. In singlehood, there are things that do not apply that will apply in a married relationship, or in a courtship and in a marriage, things are different. So you might need to then set new boundaries when you step over in the marriage part, or it might be that you had some boundaries relating to how you work. For example, you might say you do not work weekends, and then you land a job where you're required to work weekends. So you might need to readjust your boundaries or reevaluate them. So this is another key step in setting effective boundaries. You are not inflexible, but you're always revisiting your boundaries and trying to find out what is it in my life that has changed, and when do I require to change a boundary. It could also mean that the boundaries that you have placed are not working. Are people not understanding the boundaries that you're communicating? Or are the people in your life not able to respect your boundary? Is it that you have set a boundary that it is not applicable, or is it that you need to reevaluate your relationship? So if the boundaries you have placed are not being respected, then you also need to sit down and reevaluate, even as you decide what to do in terms of such instances. The next step is practice self-care. Now, self-care is a key ingredient in setting effective boundaries, because this is the time that you recharge. This is the time that you're in tune with your needs, your emotions. You're taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and you're able to be in tune with your own needs, your values, and the things that you like and dislike. So, as you spend time with yourself, as you take care of yourself, then you know yourself really, really well. And you're able to now step into that confidence, into that assertiveness of knowing that you're deserving of love, you're deserving of respect, and then setting these boundaries for yourself. Anytime you are not practicing self-care the way that you're supposed to, you get overwhelmed, and it can be hard to enforce boundaries from a place of being overwhelmed. So one key ingredient of um, enforcing your boundaries will be taking care of yourself, so that you're operating from a place where you know this is what I need, this is what I value, this is what I deserve and desire. And so when this and this doesn't happen, then I have a choice to make. The last one, as always, is seek support if you need it. If you're finding that it is very hard for you to set or maintain boundaries in your life for some reason, you can seek support from a trusted friend or family member or a therapist, so that they can validate you, they can listen to you, they can encourage you and support you in forming boundaries for your life, in setting boundaries for your life, and they can support you in also enforcing them. Sometimes we can struggle to set boundaries because of very many things. It could be because of your background, how you grew up, childhood traumas or things that happened in your life, mental health issues, and many, many things. Or circumstances that you found yourself in. So if you find that you're struggling to maintain your boundaries or set them, then you can seek support from someone who can listen to you and be able to help you and support you in that journey. Because as I said, boundaries are very, very key to your personal well-being, to your mental health, physical health, emotional health, and your well-being as a person. Finally, remember that setting boundaries is a continuous process that happens over your lifetime. Be patient with yourself where you have set boundaries and have not been able to enforce them or maintain them. Keep learning, keep trying, keep asserting yourself, keep learning yourself, and you will find that as you keep growing as a person, then you're able to assert yourself, be more confident, set more practical boundaries, more effective boundaries. But you have to start somewhere. So I hope after this video, you will be thinking about where to start in your journey of setting boundaries. Now, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this content, click the subscribe button so you can get notifications when we do more content like this. This is Boundaries Month at Right Life Kenya. We will be delving into what the Word of God says about boundaries, how to help our children learn to set healthy boundaries for themselves from an early age, and all that. We are all about boundaries this month. So keep tuned for that, and thank you for listening. Have a lovely, lovely weekend. Bye.